Philanthropy speaking, with me, Tarun Nangia. Today is a very, very special show because it talks about the institution and the establishment of the Cyril Shroff Center for Artificial Intelligence, Law and Regulation at the Jindal Global Law School. This announcement was made by Vice Chancellor Professor Rajkumar of the OP Jindal Global University. And what is it about? How much of funds have been provided for this endowment? All of this and more, we will get to know today. But this idea in itself is novel. Artificial intelligence is an area where a lot of investment needs to go, a lot of training needs to happen. But most of all, I'm very happy that a lawyer, somebody who runs a law firm, has gone beyond his mandate of duty of running a professional firm to actually funding, aiding education and the future of education. This bodes very well for India. I saw Indian conglomerates like Ratan Tata, previously Naveen Jindal, they have funded centers, but in the USA, Cyril Shroff has done it in India. And we are happy that he also joins us today. Welcome. Thank you for your time. Professor Rajkumar is with us, and we have Justice Michael Wilson with us, who, as we all know, has served as a judge of the Hawaii Supreme Court, and of course joins us on the show today. Good to see you again.
Aloha.
At the outset, let me, for the first 2 minutes, request Vice Chancellor of the OP Jindal Global University to give an introduction to make us understand what it is. Before after that, we go to Cyril and then Justice Michael Wilson. Over to you, Professor Rajkumar.
Thank you very much, Tarun, for having us this show. I'm so delighted to share this show with Mr. Cyril Shroff, one of the doyens of Indian legal profession and the world of law firm, and of course, Honorable Justice Michael Wilson, former judge of the Supreme Court of Hawaii. So, Tarun, as you had introduced, we've had the honor and privilege to be able to establish Asia's first Center for AI Law and Regulation. This has been established and named as the Cyril Shroff Center for AI Law and Technology, AI Law and Regulation. The center is important for a number of reasons, but before I do that, I want to say that it's quite a rare phenomenon that a law firm of such both domestic and international reputation to have been able to go beyond the billable hours framework, beyond the sort of bottom line framework, and to be able to look at the larger implications of AI and law and regulation on our society. And that is exactly what Mr. Cyril Shroff has done. And he will, of course, speak more about his own motivations to do it. But I want to say that this is an extraordinary and magnanimous gesture, an inspiring and transformative leadership that he has provided by setting up this center. He is generally very reluctant and shy about telling the resources that he has put in, but I will unabashedly say that he has contributed 15 crores of rupees to be able to establish the Center for Perpetuity. So it's an endowed center so that the center's resources is available for the future as well. I also want to mention that this is the first of its kind which is established through a collaborative effort of a law firm, which is kind of a professional services firm on the one hand, and an academic institution where researchers and professors and scholars are engaged in teaching, research, publishing, and writing. But because of this collaboration, the vision of the center is going to be multifold. Besides involving teaching of courses relating to this intersection, it will also have an opportunity to provide thought leadership in the form of research, publications, but also training and capacity building programs, policy level engagement through drafting of legislation and policies and others in line with what is in the best interest of India, but also what is in the best interest of the global South as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that opening comment. I'll go to Mr. Cyril Shroff to ask him two things. India, on the one hand, you have examples like China, you have examples like the United States of America. They have grown today because they put money in education. They put money in tech and furthering the cause of education. You did this now in India, and as Professor Raj said, an exceptional law firm doing it. and now institutionalizing it with a center named after yourself, which is the Cyril Shroff Center for AI. So this goes down in history. Now generations of law students and other students will, in a sense, produce cutting edge reports there. Uh, uh, what was your vision for doing this? Because this is a big commitment. What led you to think that you should do this, and what is your vision for India as a country here in doing this?
No, thank you, Tarun, and thank you, Raj, for this opportunity. So, firstly, I just want to clarify that I've done this in a personal capacity.
Okay.
So, it's therefore not for promoting the firm.
No.
This is entirely on my own and on behalf of my family and I that we've done this. But what drove me to do this, one was, of course, marking, and I wanted to mark a special occasion. And this is a special occasion now because we've just completed 10 years as the Cyril Mangaldas, building on the legacy of 100 years before that. So that was a good occasion to do something meaningful. And I thought that contributing back to legal education and policy frameworks would probably be the best way to serve India to do this. Ultimately, each nation depends on its own citizens. Nobody comes from outside and does something. You have to, if your own citizens don't do something which is impactful, you don't really have any hope. So I wanted to actually do it as a matter of national service, to contribute to this. And I think we all know what an important topic this is. You can't open a paper, in the morning, or even social media is full of just so much is happening in the sphere of AI, and it is moving so fast. And strangely enough, there is hardly any policy framework on this. There is no framework on the ethics. There is no framework on what are the rules regarding the technology. In what manner can this be used? How do you deal with things like deep fakes created by AI? I mean, there is a general common law in which you can resort to, but it is time that there is a proper, well-considered framework. And other than the government itself, which I know will do its job, I think it was important that an academic institution of the eminence of Jindal Global Law School should take up this. So I was attracted, when our conversation with Raj started, it was very clear to me that I wanted Raj to do this. Apart from his, just passion for policy and the law, I think it is, firstly geographically very well situated in the center of policy making in Delhi. Then Raj has the Jindal School has so many, international academic institutions as part of its network as well. So it was in many ways a no-brainer in terms of the choice of the institution to do this. And it's we've just given the money, then we are hands off. We have not kept any sort of control on this, because the best way to deal with philanthropy is not to interfere.
It's very well said, but you're saying something. Please complete, then I'll ask.
Yeah, no. So that was the idea, because I'm very confident that it will produce great work. I expect that not only the government will rely upon this for guidance, because it has got its academic independence. I will not be surprised if the courts, including the Supreme Court, when they start dealing with the more difficult subjects of, I think, I can visualize, and at least I would wish that this institute be called as an amicus in court for an independent view. There are just so many endless possibilities. And frankly, even though it may seem like a large amount, I think this is just the beginning. I think the center is going to grow and grow because it has set itself an ambitious vision. I think it is housed correctly. I think it has got the right leadership in terms of the gender school as well. So I'm very hopeful, and I'm very happy that I did this. Happy for India, happy for Jindal, happy for myself as well. So I think it's a win-win-win.
One follow-up question before I go to Justice Michael Wilson. In India, lawmaking needs a lot of support. Many times I have seen parliamentarians needing assistance from lawyers who are, in a sense, expert in a subject, and then those laws are framed. Do you foresee this center in an important field like artificial intelligence, which will encompass every field in India, helping in lawmaking in India? And would you be up for it, even if a personal effort from you is needed in terms of providing the support for lawmaking?
1000%. I mean, apart from the financial contribution,
Yes.
intellectually we are at their service in terms of whatever they need as well. Because this is also a very interesting subject from an intellectual curiosity point of view. I think the future of so many generations of lawyers and citizens depends on how this subject. And if we get AI wrong, it's going to have very bad consequences. So this is an opportunity to do to good. You know, as they say, the world needs to be saved by and from AI. We need to do both.
So in addition to money, you're also committing intellectual support if asked for.
100%, 100%.
Okay.
Because
That's indeed a noble thing,
that is the best
because
way to it's not as if check लिख के हो गया. That is just one aspect of it, and probably the simplest aspect of it. I think the real
yes.
the real fun comes when you associate intellectually.
And I want to add to
Yes.
what you just asked, Mr. Shroff, that the kind of emphasis that Mr. Shroff has paid in relation to the academic freedom and autonomy and institutional liberty, especially at the intellectual level, for the center to grow is speaks volumes about not only his commitment to philanthropy, but also to see the center kind of blossom itself to what it should become. And as far as the agenda of the center is concerned, you are absolutely right. We are actually in a very important stage where I must say that most people are clueless about the consequences of the technology that we're all embracing. And that doesn't mean that we need to give a doomsday scenario. What it means is we need to act in a mature manner that requires serious, careful, thoughtful reflection surrounding law and regulation, so that for once the global south can play a very important thought leadership role, as opposed to just being the ones who come much late to this and are asked to follow the rules which are already preset by people elsewhere.
Point
Yeah,
very.
Tarun, I think even in the West, people are basically clueless. I think America is doing its own thing, Europe is doing its own thing, China is doing its own thing, Singapore is doing its own thing, because the world doesn't have common standards on this as yet. And India, as the leader of the global South, and in some ways the global leader of the global East as well, has a unique opportunity to contribute to this very, very important topic.
Point very well taken. You go to Justice Michael Wilson. You come from a country where it is not uncommon for people who have made it in their professions to contribute to universities, to set up centers. The very big ones are the Rockefeller Center or Ford committing to research. There are many other people who have done it. How do you feel when a lawyer, a managing partner of a firm in India, steps up and says, see, I am doing it, and then inspires others to do it? Do you think Mr. Cyril Shroff has made that start in the field of law? He's actually committed his money, seeing that I am not only intellectually supporting, but financially also. What do you feel from the India perspective?
That is a fundamental question about the future of AI. Who will be participating? And Cyril Shroff has stepped up on behalf of the legal profession. Now, you've cited some other institutions that have been put together, and they've been funded by organizations that I'm sure are responsible, or it could be a nonprofit foundation, it could be a corporate foundation. But the expertise when it comes to the law is often considered to be in the hands of lawyers. So the proposition that you will have one of India's leading lawyers step forward to enter into a leadership position on this critical issue for humanity is a great model. And for those of us that believe that the legal profession has a lot to offer, and of course, Mr. Shroff has noticed that the #1 law school in India is Jindal Global Law School, and I applaud the kind of relationship that I've had the great pleasure to see between the Vice Chancellor and Mr. Shroff. It's a very engaging and intellectual and trusting relationship. So I think it's a great model for all democracies, particularly those democracies that heavily depend on the judicial branch of government.
Okay, thank you for that opening comment on this issue. I'll go to Professor Rajkumar. I read out from the note that I have read on this center. It's a very interesting thing that I read. It says that Cyril Shroff Center will actively contribute on international discussions on AI law and collaborate with organizations like the OECD, the United Nations, the WTO, EU, and G20 AI initiatives. You are taking this to a whole different level. So in addition to contributing at lawmaking and making reports for India, for our parliament to consider, you want to do international collaborations. Could you explain this a bit?
Sure. Thank you so much, Tarun. So, Tarun, the nature of the AI that we are now facing is inevitably global. And let me just take a few minutes to talk about what this research agenda that we're talking about. So when we say look at AI and fundamental rights, for example, we need to look at privacy, equality, freedom of expression, those type of classic public law aspects. But the moment you go beyond it, when you talk about AI, you're looking at algorithmic biases, discrimination, due process, what is the nature of legal personality and liability for AI systems, how do you deal with data protection, cybersecurity, AI governance, and also to what extent AI can be used in judicial decision making and court automation. So, and of course, the whole range of ethical AI. In a way, my point is that, as Mr. Shroff just now said, that these are not issues that are confronting India alone. And these are also issues that India alone can't do things on itself. India has the opportunity to have a global, in an intergovernmental, relationship in various forums. And so, if we can provide thought leadership in some of these areas, it will inevitably be a benchmark for creating global standards for the relationship between AI, law, and regulation. And that is why it's both domestic and international. So, for example, one aspect of domestic will be when you look at AI in-house policy think tank, for example, we intend to look at an AI and law policy lab and say help and engage with government bodies and regulatory agencies such as, be it RBI or Niti Aayog or TRI or other such things. In many ways, as our research and work progresses, I'm expecting many more people to be wanting to be helped because everybody is looking for sort of, ideas in this field.
Point very well taken. I'll go to Mr. Cyril Shroff here. One thing I want to ask you, long ago when an Indian think tank was sort of being planned, one of the principal players, a globally acclaimed academic, told me Indian businessmen will spend 100 crores on a wedding, but not 35 crores on a think tank. And that is why India doesn't produce great quality reports, because for one day they can spend 100 crores, but not a fraction of that for a think tank. You have dispelled that myth by yourself putting in money for a center. Do you think you sort of have heralded this change in Indian thinking that even law firms, I mean, you're a fairly large one, but even law firms can contribute in a very positive way. And of course, then industrialists can follow suit by setting up centers like this, which can place India on the global map. Because if we do lawmaking and we become good at it, then of course the Western world also considers us that India is stepping up to collaborate with them in lawmaking, because we are anyways 150 crore people. No law can be made without taking us into confidence, because we all of us use platforms that are designed in the West. And so, of course, there needs to be some understanding how you look at this attitude shift that you have, in a sense, heralded. You have taken your step forward there.
No, absolutely, Tarun. So this, what the center does, it creates an very interesting, meeting point for academia, the policy environment, and private practice. I represent private practice in this, and that's a very interesting intersection point, because it gives, you can share real life experience. I think you can share the wisdom of independent policy making and academic independence as well. So I see it as a point of great creativity, where you're going to see, and for a topic as complex and as future facing as AI, I think you need that. You need both imagination as well as experience in order to do this. And I think that that combination sort of comes through as well. I'm hoping that other philanthropists will also join in this. I've already got messages from industry and the kind of traditional philanthropy group, which has taken note of this, and I will not be surprised if they add to this. Either they create a separate philanthropy, or what I'm going to try and persuade them is to do is actually contribute to this one. So this grows bigger and bigger, and we can do more and more. So you can look at me as kind of almost the lead contributor to this, and there will probably be a train that will follow. But first, we have to show some good work.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I go to Justice Michael Wilson. Now, Cyril Shroff Center has taken the lead as far as now AI governance law and policy is concerned. We are maybe looking forward to the first report or the first law or the first idea that it puts forth in the coming few months. How do you see this center growing? Do you foresee any Indo-American collaboration here? Because on key issues, America is vested in India as far as the whole platforms that are concerned. All of our social media is very heavily used. American-controlled companies are hugely invested here. Do you see a collaboration, Indo-American collaboration on lawmaking here? And what role can the Cyril Shroff Center play in this?
It's inevitable that there will be a global participation by communities of lawyers and communities of judges on this issue. This is the number one issue facing judges, one of the two leading issues that judges are now focusing on in their conferences around the world, for good reason, because imagine the consequences in India if it had an AI process, an algorithm, a kind of a program that was going to reduce the case log. It would be something that would be adopted throughout the rest of the world. And that is a very important principle of justice, the idea of having justice that is rapid and is able to be responsive in a way that gives citizens answers in a timely fashion. But also at a substantive level, the judiciary is a branch, unlike the executive, that has certain requirements of disclosure for decision making. Now, there is already a great activity with judges and AI, where judges will ask AI to answer a legal question. To what extent are the attorneys allowed to know the degree to which AI participates? Or a more specific example would be the amicus briefs or the advisory briefs. Advisory briefs are something that could be produced in the hundreds on very important cases. Okay, to what extent would they be limited? And finally, when judges are making decisions, and it's often based on a record, how much will the judge be able to go outside the record? In other words, gather additional information, because you can do that in a matter of seconds or a matter of minutes. You could gather information outside of the record. And to what extent would it be considered to be appropriate judicial decision-making to do that? And to what extent should the parties know? And finally, it will be a new era of decision-making and research, because it will now be an active participation by AI that allows AI, unless it's regulated differently, and this is a circumstance throughout the world, AI will communicate with the judges all the time. If you have a relationship and you have access to AI that has access to all the cases in the world, which is happening, then AI can be programmed to contact the judge every single time a new case arises, not just a new case that's in the appellate context, but a new case that's filed anywhere. And that is an extraordinary amount of additional information about what the judges are doing. And to what extent should the parties know about that?
Point very well taken. Hello, Professor Rajkumar. One thing that I asked you, the same question that I asked to Justice Wilson, do you foresee now with the Cyril Shroff Center an Indo-American collaboration in lawmaking? Because when I speak to professionals abroad, they always tell me India is the best country to develop AI because AI needs learning. Learning needs people. People feedback feeds into the machine and it learns. India has that population and varied population. Uh, just taking this on, do you foresee this happening in future? Of course, we work for laws for our parliament, what we do in India, but it can't be isolated. I mean, this kind of lawmaking on AI is global. Could you just throw some light on that?
So Tarun, I think it's important to recognize that in the current framework of what we understand AI, much of the information that is out there in the public domain, in the internet, is largely driven by the West.
Yes.
So, for example, if you, you know, do a search, much of the information that is historically generated is through the knowledge base and its foundations largely led by the West. So that's
Yes.
why if you simply put some of these searches, you will automatically, it will be searching from the dominant presence of the West. I mean, this is not to blame the West, but that's what the history has been. So we
Yes.
have to do a lot of work to kind of get there. It's not like overnight if we decide it'll be generated. So we are going step by step. So I want to quickly say to answer your larger question, the answer is absolute yes. It's one of those areas where we should collaborate, but we also will need to recognize that the needs and aspirations of different countries and different regions may be very different. The starting points are unfortunately different. And hence, we need to figure out what works for us and in that process, provide that leadership. But from the standpoint of the center, I must tell you something quite fortuitous has happened. Mr. Shroff and I have been discussing this for some time, and he has been very positively disposed about the idea for a while. And he was obviously looking at the right moment, and the right moment came up in the form of the 10th anniversary. But around the same time, in the last several months, we have also done three very interesting things which will have a direct bearing on the center's functioning. First, we have started very recently, again in line with the center's vision, India's first and Asia's first undergraduate program, BA in AI and Law at Jindal Global Law School. We have also started, again, India's first and Asia's first LLM, a full-fledged master's degree program, which is essentially called LLM in Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Technologies. Now, in these courses, we are teaching to students courses such as, in these degree programs, we are teaching courses such as advanced IPR and IT law, intellectual property and new technology and AI, GDPR, the European example of data protection, regulating AI, challenges and opportunities, ethics, law and AI, and even a comparative AI regulation courses. So on the question of preparing the next generation of lawyers and students, this is what we are doing. Second, we have also got a number of faculty members. Very recently, one of our faculty members, Professor Nikhil Naran, had published a book on AI and Law, Challenges Mystified, that was released by both in the presence of a judge of the Supreme Court of India, the law minister, as well as the Attorney General and the Solicitor General. So we had a major book launch recently, again in line with the vision and mission of the Cyril Shroff Center for AI Law and Regulation. And thirdly, I'm happy to report, and Mr. Shroff will also be very delighted, that for the first time in our 15-year history, we have launched a short-term study abroad program in collaboration with the Seattle University School of Law, where in the month of July, almost 35 of our students will be pursuing a AI and Law short-term study abroad program at Seattle University, which is also the hub of both Microsoft as well as Amazon. We've had number of faculty members, both in the university and from the profession, in-house counsel, and people involved in the intersection of AI and law teaching these courses. So in a way, what I'm trying to tell you is that we can't be flippant about this work. We need to go on a very concerted, calculated, very conscious effort to provide that leadership. And that's the center has provided now a fillip to all of this. Lastly, I want to say on this point is that ultimately what we need to do is we need to be able to, besides doing the AI and law reports, so one of the agenda items that Cyril and I have agreed is to have that. But I'm also keen to develop an index. And this is where we have a lot of work to do, an India AI regulation index, where we look at a research-based index to assess maturity, effectiveness, and inclusivity of India's regulatory response to AI, where we look at transparency, accountability, innovation, and compliance aspects of it. So these are some of the agenda items that we are, thinking about as we look at the center.
Now, two things that I found very interesting, and this is my last question because we're almost out of time. I'll go to Mr. Cyril Shroff. The Cyril Shroff Center will assess AI implications for banking, for fintech, algorithmic trading, risk management, and develop policy solutions for AI regulation in finance and securities market. Very, very important because the use of autonomous models for trading is growing. What I see is the Cyril Shroff Center also emerging as a think tank as far as these issues are concerned, because you have time to deliberate.
Yeah.
Could you reflect on that a bit in your last answer?
So there will be obviously specialization. So apart from the general subject of AI, I think we can contribute on many subtopics. Finance is one of them. Fintech is another. Healthcare would be a third one. I actually think that in the field of law itself, there is going to be much more that we call IP as well. I actually think that at some point of time, the Supreme Court is going to rely upon the center as well. So, in a broader sense, what has happened is as India's heft has increased, India has become more a policy maker and a rule maker rather than a rule taker. You mentioned in the beginning, that we otherwise borrow all the time from the West. We don't anymore. I mean, take a GDPR example as well. It started off as a Western idea, but what we have finally landed up with is a very Indian, thoughtful version of it, which is suitable to us. I see this happening in AI. And I actually think that this center has the potential of being at the absolute vanguard of those developments, because everything is happening right now as we speak. And I think this has got the right chemistry and the right mix and ingredients for making this happen. So I'm very happy.
You're very optimistic. Indeed, this was one of very interesting shows I did in the recent times on a topic which helps India grow forward. This is the India First policy that I see with this center. And Mr. Cyril Shroff put his money where the issue is. It's not about giving a lecture, it's actually putting your funds. Then also one good thing, he also said that he'll commit even his intellectual resources, because of course lawyers who work in the field have much more exposure to what the industry wants. So he's ready to give that also. And Professor Rajkumar and Justice Michael Wilson, they shared with us the vision for the center and how do they see that growing. I only look forward that whenever the first all-important report of the center comes out on any law, it could be data privacy, it could be finance, it could be education, it could be some law being made before Parliament that you research for. We should be able to do one more show and discuss that first report. I think that would be the first victory or the first achievement of this center. And I earnestly look forward to discussing that with all of you again. But I would like to thank Professor Rajkumar, Mr. Cyril Shroff, and Justice Michael Wilson for joining me on this show. And thank you so very much. It was indeed a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.